Дали може сега?
Може сега.
Да кажам, која сум име, презиме, години, не знаеме. Добра. Ние да ви се заблагодариме, зборот ми беше, да ви се заблагодариме што дојдовте во број најмалку колку што очекувавме. Бидејќи просто Сандра Дален е наша хедлайнерка. Кога го смислувавме ова прво па женско, рековме дека можеме слободно, имаме право после 4 години за својот мал јубилеј да бидеме мрзливи и да не смислуваме нови гости, него просто да си ги поканиме најдобрите од претходните години. И тука не можевме просто да ја заобиколиме Сандра, која сега наравно не разбира ништо што збора, ама ќе раскажеме после. Sandra, I'm saying like everything wonderful about you.
That's good. That's nice.
That I can remember. Тие што биле на минатото нејзино предавање, не треба да бидат скромни, треба да се признаат дека после тоа не само што им се посветува внимание, меѓутоа има, за мене ова може еден од највистински феминистичките парчиња од годинишната програма. Бидејќи женското задоволство и зборувањето за женското задоволство во сексот е всушност empowering тема. Нешто што да, не после друг збор, го кажав прво ствари најдобриот. Тоа е. Така што уживајте. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm a little bit moved. A little bit like, oh, because you're so nice. And I'm so honored to be back here. And it's a very special day for me to be here. So I even brought my very special shoes that I never wear, just for special occasions. Golden shoes, just for today, because it's a special day. Yeah. So maybe you said that I'm from Sweden. So unfortunately, I have to do this not in Swedish. That wouldn't be good, but in English. Yeah. That's how it will be. I'll just say a few things about myself. I don't know what you said earlier. Anyway. I work as a sexuality educator. I don't only work as a sexuality educator, but mainly. I do a lot of lectures, I write books, and I do different things regarding to sex and sex ed. And I've been doing it for more than 20 years. I started in the mid-90s. And honestly, I have to say that I had no idea what it was to be a sexuality educator when I started. I didn't want to be it. I didn't know it was possible. I thought it was a very silly, strange subject, but I needed an extra job. I was studying at the university. I had no money, and there was some money. An organization got some money to give out condoms because we had this spread of HIV in Sweden in the beginning of the 90s. And I heard about it, and you could get a little bit of money if you go out and give out condoms to people in parks and things like that. It was a project. So I called the organization and I said, hi, I'm really good at kind of giving out things, you know. And they're like, yeah, you need to attend a training. And I was like, no, I don't need a training. I was studying, I had so many things, organizing things like this and so on. And they said, oh, okay, then you can't do it. And then I have to, call them after a week and say, hi, I really want to attend that training because I have no money. And that was a training to become a sex educator, actually. And I learned a lot about sexuality. And after a few hours, I came there like an upset girl, like, I don't have time for this, But after a few hours, I realized that sex is so important. It's about politics. It's about power. It's about health. It's about human rights. So I just got stuck with it, and more than 20 years later, I'm here now. I'm so happy to be here, really, really happy to be here. Just so you know. Last time I was talking about clitoral sex. I did a booklet about clitoral sex in Sweden and so on. Did anyone listen to me 2 years ago?
Yes.
Okay, nice that you are back, but there are more new people here. Nice that you are back. There are new people here as well. Good, how nice. what do I want to say? Yes, I want to say a few things just before I start the actual lecture about pleasure. You were talking a bit about it, I think, but pleasure, not just sexual pleasure, but pleasure is of course important to us. A life without pleasure is not a very nice life. Pleasure is of course important. And pleasure is connected to health. Pleasure is really connected to health. And in pleasure we find happiness and we find strength in pleasure, and also in sexual pleasure. With sexual pleasure we find strength to deal with everyday life, and we find the strength to fight back, to challenge the patriarchy and so on. We need pleasure to get the energy. And we need sexual pleasure to empower ourselves and to feel that my body is my body and I decide what to do with my body. And I have to find my own ways. What is sex to me? What do I like and what do I don't like, regardless of what anyone else says? What is sex to me? What do I like and what do I don't like? That's the most important things when it comes to sexual health. So, for me, it's important to do feminist sex education, to be subversive and to enhance sexual health and rights. It's always around that. It's always about that, no matter what I do. This seminar, we'll see what you say afterwards, but this seminar will give facts and information about body, about sex, and it will try to give perspectives. I think that perspectives are very important. Perspectives of sex, for example. When we have perspectives of sex, we can choose. We have more of a freedom to choose and to try and to reject things. Without perspectives, it can be quite narrow, and we don't really understand what happens with us and what's not happening with us and so on. So this will be both about basic information, facts, but also perspectives. And I will do it in English. And that's not my mother tongue. I speak Swedish usually. So I might need some help now and then to find the words, especially in an hour or so, because then I'll be a bit more tired. So I hope we can help each other. And feel free to stop me, to ask questions. And if you don't understand a word I say, for example, or if you want a clarification, please feel free to just raise up your hand and stop me. I would like us to do that. I don't really like the thing, you know, when the lecturer talks for 1 hour and then you have a discussion for an hour. I would really like to have the discussion ongoing, if it's possible, okay? And I know that these subjects are a bit sensitive to most people. You know, I'm a bit strange. I do this all the time. But for most normal people, it's a bit strange to speak up about these things in public. I know that. And I also want to say that I'll be here afterwards for the ones who want to talk to me, to have clarifications, to have those of you who want to tell me something, or if you have questions, I'll be around, so you know that. Yes, so far, anything anyone would like to share so far? Or you don't have any seats? If you would like to sit on the floor, you're welcome to do that, but it's up to you, of course. Maybe are there any more chairs downstairs?
Има случаи на балконот, имате тука 3 слободни, може да седи напред, може да седи во
There are 2 chairs out here.
Вземи ги тие две, стај ги тука. 3 столчиња тука има слободни.
I also think that they don't bother.
They don't bother. No? Okay, fine. Then you can easily go out when it gets too much as well.
Okay.
The seminar today will be from a new book that I have written. It's in Swedish. unfortunately. You'll see the cover here. It hasn't been printed yet. It will be printed any day now, and it will be launched in August in Sweden. It's in Swedish, but you can see the cover of the book. And I would just like to say a thing about the title here. The title is in Swedish, and it's Hallogrottan, and that means we have a little biscuit. We have a cookie in Sweden that's called the Raspberry Cave. So it says the Raspberry Cave. It's like a cookie. It's like, oh, it's not dangerous at all. It's just a cookie. You know? And so it's the Raspberry Cave, and then it's a book about vaginal sex. Okay? So it's like that, yeah. And it will be about this book. So it's the first time I'm speaking about it. So I'm so happy to do it here, because I won't do it until August then. This is like the first time, the rehearsal. So why a book about vaginal sex? It's quite, I mean, if someone would show it to me, I would ask that question. Why a book about vaginal sex? Have you ever heard about the expression vaginal sex? Have you read about it? Have you used it? Yeah? Some say yes. Anyone else? Because sometimes it's used. Sometimes you can read the word vaginal sex. Most times, even if it's a sex ad, website, or whatever, usually you can't find the word vaginal sex. But sometimes you can see it. And usually people don't say vaginal sex because they think that sex is vaginal sex. It's like the same thing, so you don't have to say it. It's like, well, we have sex. Yes, and that means vaginal sex, especially if you're heterosexual. If it's, you know, a man and woman, it's like sex, it means vaginal sex, okay? And usually vaginal sex, it's not like just penis, it's penis in the vagina. It's like that it is. So even if you say sex many times, it means penis in the vagina. But even if you say vaginal sex, that's what usually it means. Yeah? And it doesn't just mean penis in the vagina, it means in a certain way, in and out. That's what it is. No one has ever explained it, you can't read about it, but that's what it is. And to me it's quite narrow. And it's strange when just certain people can have sex, because women can have sex with women and men with men. It's like, oh, then you don't have sex. Like, yeah, I got 10 orgasms. No, it's not sex, darling. Because there wasn't a penis in the vagina. You know, it's like, says who? Says who? So, the book broadens the view of what is sex and what is vaginal sex. What can it be? For me, vaginal sex is pleasure in the vagina, in different ways, and we will go through that. And you have to find what you like, and the ways you like. And maybe you'll find that vaginal sex is not my thing. I have a clitoris. I like that part. Or I don't even have a vagina. I have a penis. So, no, I'm joking, but this is very important when it comes to sex. Very important. Not to base sex life on myths, or like that someone else tells you what sex is. It's very important to try to find out what is sex to me. And what part do I like to involve in my sex life today, but not tomorrow, because we can have different days. Or with this partner, not you, but you, if you have several. You know what I mean? So, sex, when it's about choice, actual choice, then it's usually much nicer. And then it is empowering. So just because I talk about vaginal sex today doesn't mean I believe that everyone should do it. It means it's one way, or certain ways, in the vagina. And it's just nice if it is a choice. Yes. So, any clarifications? Please start, come on. want some dirty stuff now. Okay, I would like to start with some basic anatomy and physiology. I'm so sorry if you find it boring. I'll do it as nice as possible because it's so important to know your body. Some people just know it because they have felt and looked and kind of really tried their own way, and they understand the anatomy and physiology, but many people don't really have the basic understandings. And when you don't have the basic understandings, you end up sometimes even being angry with your genitals, because like, why aren't you doing like I want you to do? It's like, why are you behaving like this? Because we don't really have the basic understanding. So, I will now show, I hope no one will faint or anything like that. I will show some drawings from my book that hasn't been shown before, but I'll show some drawings, physiology, anatomy in the beginning, and then other nice things. And if you just think it's too much, because you can't really choose, if you think it's too much, just have a look in your phone or something, you know. But I'll start with the vulva, because many people tend to mistake the vagina from the vulva, and for me it's very important to see that they're connected, but it's not the same thing. Like me as a sexuality educator, I get questions sometimes like, oh, I have so much hair on my vagina, what shall I do? It's like, you can't have hair there. It's not possible, it's inside the body, and hair is never growing inside the body, you know? So they mean the vulva, the outer parts, okay? So the vulva are the outer parts. This is actually, why did I take this one? It's an old one. She has made a much nicer one, the illustrator. The vaginal opening is a bit big, and okay, anyway. It's in Swedish, I'm sorry, I will translate it to you. So the vulva are the outer parts. Soon we will enter inside, but we'll start here. And it's the outer labias, it's the mons pubis up here, it's the inner labias, the urethra opening. The vaginal opening is a part of the outer parts, the opening, and the tip of the clitoris, the glans clitoris. Those are the outer parts. And they are important if you want to have fun in the vagina, because they are linked and they're connected in different ways. And especially the clitoris. I talked about the clitoris 2 years ago. I won't do it for another 2 hours. I just want to mention it because it's important and it's all connected. What we see is the outer part. It's the tip or the glans clitoris. That's what you see beneath the hood, the clitoral hood. Okay? So that part is that part. Here, beneath the hood, the foreskin. That's the tip. And then it goes inside as a shaft and goes down like that to cuirass or legs, as you can see, behind the labias. So it's quite a big organ. And here you also have these bulbs connected to the clitoris. And the clitoris is erectile tissue. So during sexual arousement, or actually during sleeping at certain dream periods, without any sex involved, there's the blood flow to the genitals and it gets erected. And that's important for the vagina. Down here is the vagina, is the urethra, because it squeezes the vagina when someone is aroused. And we'll come to that later, when you press certain, especially up, when you press certain kind of zones and places in the vagina, you actually also connect with the clitoris. And that's important because it's the most sensitive part of the human body. There's no other part in the human body that is as sensitive as the clitoris. The tip of the clitoris is 3 times more sensitive, for example, than the glans penis. So it's very important for sex and even for vaginal sex. questions? Just, I mean, you're quite, there are quite a few of you, so you have to like, yeah, I have a question back here. There's something.
The brief question.
So, let's, oh actually I think I have another, it's another position because it's like lying down actually more like that. So that's the clitoris in another position. And you see the vagina here. So it touches, depends on how long these cures are, how much they actually connect here. But when pressing here, it also connects with the clitoris here. So we'll come to that later. So let's go inside the vagina. Before that, I would just like to say a few, maybe more serious words. Everything is serious, of course, but just a few things about the vagina before it would be nicer and happier again. But I would just like to say that the vagina is too often a battleground in our societies. That particular part of the body is so many times a battleground. Families, villages, whole societies have their opinions of what should be going on in that special particular body part. So it's really a place where many battles are going on, and not just opinions of that and controlling this, the vagina. I would say that the vagina many times is also treated like some kind of a hole for other people to use or dominate or take pleasure from, not give pleasure, take pleasure from. I'm sorry to say this, but that's a very, a part that's usually a body part that's very violated many times. Both in peace and in war, many times. It's kind of a battleground many times. Or when is it ever peace? I don't know. Yeah. What is peace, especially when it comes to female bodies? But I would also like to say something about the violent patriarchy for us who do have vaginas, the violent patriarchy that can be within ourselves as well. How do we actually treat the vaginas? How do we look upon them? Me as a sex educator often hear people complaining, and they are angry with the vaginas. They smell, and it's too much liquid, and they try to dry it up, and they try to shower it and perfume it, and you know, it's like an ongoing battle with your own body many times. And it's quite stupid because the vagina produces so many liquids. It's in its nature. The vagina wants to be moist, very moist, sometimes extremely moist. And it's a battle you will never win. You will just be unhappy with it, you know? And it really hurts. It's hurtful to your body. And it's mistreated in many ways. So it's like it should be dry. Many people want it to be should be dry, and no one should ever notice that the liquid is flowing. It's like, oh, that's horrible. Because things that come out from the vagina is like the worst liquids. It's worse than spit. That's bad. This, not that bad, you know. If you cut your finger, that blood is, it's okay. You can go like, oh my God, I cut my finger, and no one will say, oh my God, you're a slut. No? But if the blood comes from the vagina, it's like, oh my God, I can't even show that I'm carrying a tampon, you know? Because everything that comes from the vagina is, those liquids are kind of bad. And it influences, of course, how we look upon ourselves and how happy we are with our bodies. And in other days, we can be angry with the vaginas because it's not moist enough. You know? You should have been dry 2 hours ago, but it's time for sex now, so just moist up. And the vagina says, I'm not ready for this. You're too stressed. and you just had an argument with your partner, and I don't feel like this, and you're like, come on, you should be moist now, you know? And then people try to force the vagina to have sex, and the vagina goes up, and it's really not nice for no one, you know, for anyone. I just think that we have to care more about the genital parts and care more about the vagina. It's really the center of the body, you know. It's really good to be connected to that center. So, where am I now? No. Yes. So, let's go inside. This really, I mean, I think this is an aroused person, you know, because everything is like open like that. It doesn't look like that usually because it's easier for us to see. But we have the opening here. And what's interesting with the opening is that's the most sensitive part of the vagina. It's there, if there are any nerve endings, sensory nerve endings, it's there. It's at the opening. So some people just want to stimulate the opening because that's the most sensitive part. Anyway, the vagina kind of really try their own way, and they understand the anatomy and physiology, but many people don't really have the basic understandings. And when you don't have the basic understandings, you end up sometimes even being angry with your genitals, because like, why aren't you doing like I want you to do? It's like, why are you behaving like this? Because we don't really have the basic understanding. They're more sensitive the vagina is. Yeah. So Kegel exercises, you can just Google it, can be boring in the beginning, but they can really, you know, you can really cash it in after some time. But actually also orgasms make your muscles work. So orgasms are like, they are nice, and they make the vagina even more sensitive. Yeah. And that's interesting with the vagina because it can be so sensitive and fragile because of the mucus lining and because of you have a bad day and sometimes because of age. I mean the estrogen levels when they go down after menopause or before even, the walls can be quite fragile and thin and so on. And at the same time so strong. I mean the vagina can do so many things, and it can be really, really strong because of these muscles. The size, the depth is about like this when it's resting, okay? And it differs from person to person. For a child it's like this, and then in puberty it grows, and it's about like this. And if you have a uterus, that's what's kind of stopping, what do you say, yeah, I mean, that's the vagina, and then you have the cervix that kind of stops the vagina there, yeah. The angle is like that, and it flattens with age. So vaginal sex can feel a bit different when you're 20 or when you're 70, because the vagina actually, and how, oh, 70, yes. That's what's so nice with sex, you know, you can have it your whole life, and if you're retired, it's so good, you have extra time, you know, and you don't have children to take care of. Maybe you have your grandchildren, but anyway, yeah. I can also mention, when it comes to the opening, 1 centimeter in, we have the corona, we who have vaginas, there's the corona. Some call it hymen. Hymen is a word that's full of so many myths, so it's difficult to use that word because there is a belief that the hymen covers the vaginal opening and that it will burst if something enters the vagina, but that's a myth. I mean, there are, what's it called? Anyway, it goes like this. And it looks different from person to person. And of course the vagina is open. All the fluid that is produced in the vagina, in the cervix, and in the uterus must be able to get out. It can't be closed, it has to be open. But if it's very narrow, of course something can tear. For some people, if you put something inside the vagina, for many people it doesn't, because people don't have something that covers the vagina. So, the liquids. Oh, I've said that something else. Shall I say anything more about liquids? Yeah, I mean the liquids, it's always a bit moist, of course, from the vaginal walls that produce a moist that has the right pH level. But then, of course, also the vaginal secretion that starts producing in the puberty. It can be before that. Even small children can produce it, but usually during puberty it's more, and it comes from the cervix. And many people think that something wrong with this secretion because it can be so much, even depending on where you are in the menstrual cycle, because the secretion follows the cycle when it comes to texture and amount and color. And it's quite good to learn the secretion cycle, the menstrual cycle, because it's always good to know when your body is healthy and happy, because then you notice if something is wrong, if something is changing in a way that you're not used to. And the secretion should change over the menstrual period. But if it all of a sudden changes in a very strange way, like it smells in a way it's never smelled before, or it's in a huge amount, or the consistency is really, really strange, or the color, then you might have an infection or something, and then it's time to check it out. But a healthy vagina has secretion. That's how it is. It's also called discharge, but I think it's a horrible word. Ooh, what's that? What's that? It's a secretion. Yeah. And of course the menstruation, and I don't know if I say anything about that. The menstruation is of course not just blood. If you're menstruating, if you're born with your vagina, of course you can gain a vagina through surgery, but if you're born with a vagina, usually you start menstruating during puberty, and some are a bit shocked that it's not just this wonderful blood that's coming out, there are lumps, and it can be brown. That's how it is. It's just to embrace it. And then of course the lubrication that comes with sexual arousal and sometimes other situations as well, and we'll come to that a little bit later. No, actually we'll do it now. No, hygiene. I want to say something about hygiene. The vagina is self-cleaning. The vagina cleans itself because the wonderful secretion is taking care of that. Okay? You should never ever shower inside the vagina. The vagina will not be happy. The vagina will say, so now I'll produce even more secretion. And then people tend to shower and even more, and maybe use soap inside the vagina, and then the vagina will say, okay, I tried to learn to teach you a lesson with more secretion, you didn't listen to me, so now I'm angry. So it will just get dry and itchy, and it will just say no. That's how it works, you know? And then people tend to shower even more because they're like, something is wrong now, you know? And then you have this battle that I was talking about. If you get something inside the vagina, let's say sperm, okay? It's not very nice the nearest 24 hours. It's not very nice, but the vagina has to take care of it, you know? After 24 hours, the vagina is taking care of it. It has showered out the sperm itself. The secretion is making sure that as few bacteria as possible will get stuck inside and that the pH level is nice. If you try to fuck with that, oh, that's the wrong word, then it won't be good. Then you change the balance, the pH balance, the moist, it will not end well. And never, ever soap in that area at all. No perfumes, okay? No perfumes. If you use it and it's fine, continue doing it. You might get problems soon, and then you can just stop, okay? But to have a happy vulva and vagina, nose, where it grows hair is fine, you know, like shampooing. Hair is fine. Between the outer and inner labias, no soap. Opening, no soap. Water is fine. And oil. Like baby oil with no perfume, or even if you have some nice, I don't know, olive oil in the kitchen or whatever, use that if you want some extra soap and moist, because this area wants most. And inside, no water, no soap.
What about the products for intimates?
Yeah, there are many people that want to make money out of our battles with our bodies.
Okay.
And if you would like to give them your money, then do that. I cannot stop you. But it won't make you happy. That's what I believe. So, and a sad vagina makes a very sad person. Happy vagina, happy person. That's usually how it goes. It's in the center of everything. Each vagina is like a top part of the so yeah. So, sexual arousal, and then we'll come to more of the practice and pleasure. Sexual arousal is about many things, but just if we just talk about the genitals, the blood, there's a blood flow to the genitals. And in and around the genitals there's a lot of erectile tissue. So many things happen. So what happens during sexual arousal? Or actually not just during sexual arousal, even if you, some certain, the REM sleep, yeah, it's happening exactly the same thing.
REM,
it's not
like
connected
the band?
to sex in any way.
REM, like the band?
Like the band. So now you always think about the genitals when you listen to the REM. Or you don't listen to them anymore because 20 years ago they were big. Anyway. So the blood flows to the genitals, and that makes the vagina stretch because it goes like this, so it stretches and it gets deeper. And it's of course different from person to person. How deep? But it deepens. And the walls spread apart. It's a bit too much now, maybe. I just want to be clear. The walls spread apart, you know, so it's bigger. But the opening gets more narrow usually, especially after a while, because there's erectile tissue around the vaginal opening. And when that is really full of blood, it's like cushions around the opening and it tightens up. So vagina is usually like this, it's like tight, and then it opens up like that, more like that. There are different styles, but that's usually what happens. And if you have a uterus, it gets up, it erects. Usually uterus is leaning a bit forward, so it stands up. If it's backward, it stands up. And that also deepens the vagina even more. And then of course, the blood that streams to the genitals presses out the fluid, the lubrication from the vaginal walls. So it's not the ordinary vaginal secretion that you get when you're sexually aroused. It's a special secretion. It's another secretion that comes through the walls. And it's like the walls are sweating, because first you get a few drops, and then more, and then there's a fluid, like they go together and they create a fluid. And all of these things must take place before vaginal sex is really pleasurable. Of course, a little finger in the vagina, just being there silently, can be nice without all of these changes. But more intense vaginal sex, then you need all of these things to happen. And it can go quite fast. It can go like this and everything is there, but some days it will take longer. And we are different. Persons differ from each other, so it might take longer for you and not for you, and so on. All these things might have happened. Deepen, open up, it has to swell around the vagina. The fluid, the uterus, everything must happen for it to be nice. And that's usually a thing. People don't really wait for it. They might have a partner who doesn't understand it, or they themselves have this battle with the vagina. It's like, I promised my partner to have sex now, and now it's the time, so come on! You know, like that. But you really need to wait for all of these things to happen if you want it to be pleasurable. So far, this was quite fast. I mean, there are many more things to say. So if you need any clarifications, have any questions, now it's the time. I have another hour, yeah? Will you be able to sit now? Would you like to stand up? Are you okay? Because I'm moving all the time, so I have the energy, you know.
I have a question, but
yes,
it's a bit difficult one, so maybe I don't know if I should ask it now or later.
You decide.
I will ask it now, so you decide when you answer it.
Okay, would you like to do it in English? Are you happy with English or another language? Because I can get a translation if you want to ask in other language.
I can ask it in both languages.
Okay.
In English?
Both, so everyone will ask.
No, I will ask it in English and in Macedonian. You are talking about the connection with the mind and with the vagina. So I've read in many cases that, for example, many women, when they are raped, they feel orgasm. So it's like all of this that you mentioned is happening physically in the body, but with the mind, they would force themselves not to feel the orgasm. And later, you know, usually they blame themselves because they felt it so. So it's happening also the other way around.
Yes.
Macedonian, treba da preveda?
So I'm very happy you said this, because I've been writing about it in the book, but I forgot to tell you about it now. So thank you for that. Because as I said, you're talking about orgasm, but it's also about the lubrication that can actually be when you're aroused. It can be when you dream during the REM and sleep. But it can also sometimes be by mechanical contact. So sometimes the vagina produces the lubrication, it's like protecting itself, but there's no sexual arousement. It can be fear, you know, it can be fear, but the vagina might still. Many people don't. It gets really dry if you're afraid, but some vaginas react with lubrication. And it has got nothing to do with sexual arousement. It's another mechanism. It's about a technical thing that touching the area and touching, getting connected with the surface inside the vagina can start this lubrication. And orgasm can also happen mechanically. Sometimes. It seems like it can happen mechanically. It's like you're not there. You might even be afraid or whatever. But certain kind of stimulation will make the muscles tense and release. And orgasm is tense and release. Yeah. So it's very important. And not to be connected with arousement, you know, and pleasure. Because it's mechanical things going on. And in another way, sometimes if it's a nice situation, you can use this. It's like you're too stressed, you've had a bad day, and you really want to relax with sex, and you have a partner, and you're happy you have a sex partner, and the partner is up for sex, and you really want to have it. And some people, they really know where to touch to get started. Mechanically. And then they know after a while the brain and the rest of the body will come. So it can be used that way as well. But that's when you are safe and happy, and it's a choice. Yeah. Anything else? Was it? Did I answer your question?
Yes, it was covered.
Yes.
So thank you.
Okay. I will now talk a little bit about techniques and pleasure. And just to be clear, it's not always the technique that's wrong. I mean, if you're too stressful or you're being abused or whatever happens in your life, of course you won't have a desire for sex, or the sex won't work the way you want because the body isn't there. For example, if you're very stressed, the system, the sympathetic nerve system actually shuts down the sex drive. So, just to be clear, or it can be about hormonal levels and so on. If you're not really happy with your sex life, it's not always the techniques. I will talk about the techniques, but many times we have to ask ourselves, can we change things in life to be happier? Because when we are happier, then we will be sexier. I mean, like, have more a desire for sex, and we will enjoy sex in a better way. On the other hand, some people can live miserable lives, and the only time they're happy is when they're having sex. It's like that's where you feel you get energy and happiness to continue. But for many people, if you're too stressful, if you have many things to think about, or if you're going through different times, usually the sex drive is quite low, and you can't force it. You have to try to solve what's in the way. Yeah. But I'll talk about the techniques, because many times it's also the techniques. Many times it's like people think that I don't like sex. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's not wrong with you. You just use the wrong techniques. Or you have the wrong partner. Or your partner tries, or you have the right partner, but the partner doesn't have the knowledge or tries too much, and you just got stuck in this circle of trying too much, or whatever, you know. But let's talk a little bit about techniques. And vaginal sex, I will circle around. I mean, you can use, for vaginal sex, you can use fingers. 1, 2, 3, actually a whole hand if you feel like it. You can use dildos, or you can use things at home, and penises, of course. It's a matter of choice. It's a matter of choice, of course. And I'll say just a few things about sex toys. Now you can't see it at the back. I thought it would be bigger, you know, so I'm so sorry. I'll try to explain. Sex toys or sex tools are usually very expensive. And I don't know how many shops you have with sex toys here.
One.
One, two.
One firm.
And of course there are websites as well. But websites are good in one way, but you can't really feel it, you can't, you know, you can't touch it, you can't check it before you buy the toy. So it's better to go to a shop, and maybe the shop isn't very nice, or you feel too embarrassed. And most of all, I don't know, but in Sweden sex toys are usually quite expensive. So it's really important to remember, if you're into sex tools and sex toys, just have a look around your home. This is a flat. This is a Swedish flat. It's living room and kitchen. It's bedroom. No, bedroom, living room, kitchen, bedroom. It's one bedroom flat. And the bathroom and the hall. And here's a storage or big... like storage. So, if you're into tools and toys, you can just have a look around, you know, what there is. It's like, oh, I got a cucumber in the refrigerator. So you just take it out for an hour because it might be too cold, you know, but you have a cucumber here. And next to the refrigerator, maybe you have some olive oil and other oils that can be very nice to use all over the body, or in the vagina, wherever, you know. Oh, and here we have this, what's it called, that you do when...
Pancakes.
Spatula. Yes. Yeah, and this one is really good because it's with holes and it's on plastic, so you can spank with it without being very hurtful. like spanking. And here's another thing: when you bake, you can use it for spanking as well. And this one you can insert, you can press, you know, the one next to the vulva, and so on. And candles. Candles come in so many sizes, you know, so it depends on which day, what you feel like. Candles are really good. And if you insert things in the vagina, you can always put on a condom, you know, so you're sure that nothing will break or loose from it or so. This is a nice thing, the deodorant. Don't throw away the deodorant, because when it's empty, you know, the roll-on you put, you know, when it's empty, you take away the bowl and you put in some oil and you put it back, and then you can give yourself some oral pleasure. Or your partner can, you know, when the time gets too tired, you can use that one instead. And so on. And what's nice, if you use things you have at home, it's like, or in your partner's home, it's like, you know, you have a bad day, you get home, and you see the candles, and you have sex all around you. And you sit on the couch, and you're like, oh my God, I was really rubbing against that couch last night. So it gives you, you know, a bit of happiness in your everyday life. So that's about sex tools. And of course, if you can afford dildos, what's good with dildos is that they come in so many shapes and sizes. So that's of course good. And no matter what gender or body your partner have, I mean, if your partner have a really big penis and you feel like a smaller one, then you can buy a small dildo, and you can stimulate your partner with your hand or your mouth. Or some days you really feel like something bigger in the vagina, then please enter. You know, other days not. Or the opposite. Or if your partner doesn't have a penis, but you really like to really get something big inside, I mean, then you have dildos. And yes, I have these ladies with the dildos. The dildo ladies, I call them, the dildo ladies. And many dildos, if they're made out of silicone, you can also heat them up a bit. This is a pot. You know the kitchen. The kitchen is good. So this is a pot with different dildos with warm water, so it gets like the 33 degrees or whatever you like. So that's quite good. Yeah. She's like, you know what this means? And she's like, yeah, okay.
Dinner time.
Dinner time. Dessert time. Yes. So that's what's good with toys or tools, whatever you like to say, is that you can use them regardless. You can use them by yourself, when you have sex with yourself, or with a partner, regardless of the partner's body, gender, because it's a matter of like choice and taste and so on. So, okay. Anything? Some people, or some days, people with vaginas, and I do say people with vaginas. Some people think it's a bit strange that I say people with vaginas. It's like, why don't you say women? But of course you can have a vagina without identifying as a woman, and you can have a vagina identifying as a woman. It's better, you know, than having a vagina or not. That's the question now, you know. So some people with vaginas, or some days, you know, they feel like having sex, and they can start having vaginal sex because they've been aroused for a long time, or they just want to start that way. But most people want to have some kind of warm-up before, for all these different stages to happen during arousal. So the vagina is really, really, really ready for sex. Or maybe the kind of sex that that person likes. If it likes kind of rougher sex in the vagina, for example, then you have to warm up quite a lot for the vagina to be really, really ready for it. Yeah. So most people usually say foreplay. I do say foreplay sometimes as well, but it's so full of ready-made meanings. I don't know, foreplay, it's like foreplay, it has to be something afterwards. It's like before something. And it's like, when then it has to be intercourse. And I don't know, foreplay, for me it's full of, so I like the warming up thing, but warming up is also like, it's before some, I don't know. What I want to say, but the foreplay or the warming up can of course be good enough. I mean, people can get like 3 orgasms by a foreplay, and then they're happy. And it wasn't a foreplay. Oh, it wasn't a foreplay, it was the sex. You know? I'm happy now. I hope you are. No, okay, then I'll do some more for you, but I'm happy. You know what I mean? So, sex is usually better when you don't decide. Some people really have to decide to be comfortable, to know what will happen. And if you're into BDSM sex, the bondage and dominance and discipline and things like that, then it's of course very important to decide before what will happen. So you really have an agreement. And then of course it's very important during the play to check. Are we still having the same agreement? Shall we continue? And so on. But if you don't have that kind of sex, then many times it's quite nice not to be sure what will come. Because then you can really focus on what you're doing, and you can really be into what you're doing instead of thinking, oh my God, soon this will happen. Soon something will get into the vagina. And I don't know if it's moist enough. I don't know if it's moist enough, you know. So it's better to have the kind of intention to see, like, what will happen. We'll start like this. That's usually better for people, usually. So, a foreplay or warming up can be many things. It can be like texting each other the whole day. And talking about all the nice things you'll do in the evening, and that you bought new candles yesterday. So texting is of course a way of foreplay, or kissing, or hugging, or rubbing, or I have a drawing here of foreplay with foot massage. A foot massage foreplay. You don't have to be naked, of course, for foot massage, but they want to be naked, so they are. And they're lying comfortably on pillows and having a good time. And feet are, of course, they can be very, very sensitive. And it's nice to give each other the exact same kind of stimulation, if both likes foot massage. And of course there can be some toe sucking if people like that. But the nice thing with giving each other a foot massage like this is that the legs are rubbing against the genitals at the same time. So it's like multitasking sex. And that can be quite nice. Focusing on the vaginal opening can be a part of the foreplay, or it can be the whole vaginal sex. But focusing on the opening is something that it's neglected a bit, I think, when I speak to people. A way of starting vaginal sex can be, sorry, that wasn't very nice. Did you hear that?
No.
What can I say? What can I say? There was a friend of mine who said 20 years ago, Sandra, you will never be a lady. And I said, who cares? So this is what happens. So, the vaginal opening. Stimulating the opening can be with vibrations. Electrical toothbrush can be nice. Or of course a vibrator that you gave your partner for a gift for birthday. It's a nice gift, isn't it? Regardless if you have penises or vaginas, I mean vibrators are nice to most people. Most people like vagina. Vibrators. Licking, of course. Some people really like licking when it comes to the vaginal opening, and other people don't. Like, don't lick away the lubrication. What are you doing? the fluid must be getting out. But licking can be nice, of course. Usually people lick around the clitoris, the tip of the clitoris, but of course the vaginal opening can be nice also, or a little bit inside. Or using the tongue, of course, like fucking with the tongue is, of course, also a way. And fingers. Fingers rubbing, or just one or two in the opening. And some are really happy just to focus on the opening, and then they are satisfied because it's quite sensitive. Should I take away information? I need to see that all the time. So, further in, using fingers, for example. Fingers are good in that way that most of us have several fingers. So, and of course you can use one finger, and you can use one finger there and another one there. You know, it's very kind of flexible with fingers, and you can move from one finger to 2 fingers, maybe 3 fingers. It's very flexible. The fingers are usually, depending on who you are, but they're quite strong. Some really like just a finger to be inside, very silently, very like that in the vagina, while you do other things. Stimulate the clitoris or kiss or whatever, stimulate your partner. Just one finger inside can be very, very nice. Some really like the in and out thing with 1 or 2 fingers. But many seems to like, I mean, we don't have research about it. It's like we who do sex education, we try to collect information from people. Maybe to move them not this much, but this much. Because then this part will be next to the opening all the time. And that can be nice because the opening is sensitive. Fingers can, of course, also press in different directions. You can circle, and that's another sensation from this sensation. So fingers can circle, and they can press different angles, and they can massage different parts of the vagina. And that's something that most vaginas, not all, but most like massage. Because as I said, people don't usually have much sensitivity inside the vagina. So massage gets you behind the vaginal walls, and then you start massaging the PC muscles, the clitoris, the urethra, what's it called? The prostate glands, and so on, that are more sensitive. So that's why massage can be quite nice. The most seems like common massage, or at least common written massage, is the G-spot massage. I call it the G-zone, because it's not really like a small spot, it's usually more of a zone, area in the vagina. I use the letter G, even if it feels like a bit old-fashioned, because it's from this guy, the Grafenberg, who found this spot and thought he was the founder or something. That I'm sure that many people already knew about. But I have to say it because otherwise people don't know what I'm talking about. So I said the G zone. Okay, and the G zone goes like this. A few centimeters in, it's different from vaginas to vaginas. A few centimeters in. In some vaginas you can feel that the wall during arousement is a bit different. You feel that the texture is a little bit different. A few centimeters in with 1, 2 is quite good because you have to be a bit strong. It's the front wall. So if you have your partner in front of you and you want to massage the G zone, you have your fingers like that and you say like, come on, come here. It's like pressing or rubbing, massaging. There's this doorbell technique, like when is someone opening the door? There are different techniques, but massage, rubbing, and so on. And sometimes you have to be really, really strong. And then when it's good to have a tool because the fingers can get tired. And the longer a person is aroused, the rougher usually you have to stimulate that person, because the what's it called? The level of pain, you say like that in English? The pain goes down, it goes up. So when someone is really aroused, you can do things with the body that you couldn't do an hour before. It's connected with endorphins and how the nerves move underneath the skin and so on. So if someone would spank you now, you would just like hit them or kick them. But if you're really aroused, some people enjoy a spank because it feels in a different way. Okay? And it's the same thing inside the vagina. It's like putting in a tampon. If you do, it's like, it's not that. Okay, it's not that nice. But if you're very sexually aroused and someone's really then it can be not nice. But of course, it can be tiring after a while, and some people really want to have a good massage there, and then you need some kind of a tool to massage with the tool, a hard kind of dildo.
Candle.
That won't break. The dildos like this. A dildo, and especially there are special dildos that look like this, with kind of a that one. And some of them are soft. That's a fake one. You can't do it with a soft one because then it will bend. You know, that has to be made of strong material like wood or something. Okay, and that's a G-zone dildo. Yeah.
No, but there is also like a lips like this.
Yes.
So when you put, it's like this.
Yeah, it goes like that. Yeah. Because there's also dildos that they go like that, you can put them inside yourself, and then you can put them in another vagina, and then they're both are stimulated at the same time. And one gets really good G-zone stimulation, and that one gets maybe a G-zone or another stimulation. So yeah, it's a fieldo. Fieldo. It's a fieldo, yes. Any questions about the G-zone thing? If you want to look for scientific kind of articles about it, you have to look for these boring letters, the CUV complex, the clitoris urethra vagina complex. Because the latest research shows that the G-zone seems to be there because the clitoris and the urethra and the vagina are connected there at the front wall, and it gets very sensitive when you massage it. So it's like a complex. Before we thought it was just the urethra and the prostate glands, but it seems to be like more parts involved, and that's why it's a nice place. And not everyone enjoys the G-zone stimulation. Not everyone enjoys it. Some people stop because they feel like they need to pee. Yeah, and it's because you're actually massaging the urethra. But if you can just, breathe deeply and continue, it usually passes and gets nicer and nicer, and can even give a very deep orgasm. Some people ejaculate, especially when the G-zone is stimulated. And ejaculation is not from the vagina. The ejaculation is from the urethra opening, or from the opening of the glands, the Bartolini glands from at each side here. There's tiny, tiny openings connected to glands that produce liquid. So it might come from the glands or the urethra, because the glands are connected to the urethra as well. So, and especially, some people ejaculate regardless of where they stimulate, they just ejaculate when they're happy. So it's like, oh, sex, woo. Almost like that. But most people who do ejaculate, they do it when stimulating the G-zone. And the stronger PC muscles people tend to have, the easier they ejaculate. That's usually how it goes. And if you have your fingers inside someone who's ejaculating, then people really talk about these strong muscles, because sometimes even the muscles really start working to press out the ejaculation, and the fingers almost like pressed, pushed out, because the muscles are so strong for many people who ejaculate. Yeah. So, discussions, clarifications. Yeah?
I just want to add that after ejaculation doesn't mean that you have to stop and never come in again. It might mean that it can be pleasurable if you repeat and repeat and repeat.
Yes, yes. You just said that you don't have to stop just because someone is ejaculating or having an orgasm.
Because it pushes the fingers out, yes, but you don't have to. It pushes the fingers out, yes, but you don't have to stop and never continue.
No. It can actually, if you continue, some people are like, no more stimulation, oh please, I'm so happy, let me sleep, or whatever. But for many, you can continue, and you get deeper and deeper and stronger orgasms, or different kinds of orgasms. So it's good that you said that, because an orgasm doesn't mean, it can mean, but it doesn't mean that the sex is over. Depends on what everyone who's involved feel like doing, So that's very important.
It's not like a male ejaculation.
It's not like a male ejaculation. Some actually, no, yeah, ejaculation usually for a man and for a male, person, then it's like you have to rest some time at least before you can move on or start again. Yes, it's not the same thing with the female ejaculation. No. Anything else? So, some special things, maybe the G zone is special as well, but something that people don't really talk much about is, of course, also fisting the vagina. And fisting can sound a bit violent, because you think about a fist like this. A fist are usually used to hurt people, or maybe when you're angry, something like that. But when it comes to sex, a fist is never closed. The fist is always open. So this is a fisting hand. It looks like this. Not this. You put your fingers together like that. And this is for people who really, really like vaginal sex and really like the vagina to get stretched. Because of the few nerve endings, sometimes the most pleasurable stimulation is stretching, because you really stretch the muscles around the vagina. Fisting is a very, very slow process. Very slow process. You might start with one finger or two for quite a long time, and you need a lot of lubrication, because it's a slow process, and the lubrication that the vagina produces isn't usually enough. Sometimes it's not enough. I mean, people lubricate different amounts. So some people always add on lube, even if they are very, very aroused, because they like extra lube, or because they don't really produce as much as they need for that kind of sex they like. But when it comes to fisting, you really, really need to add on lube. Silicone lube, I would say, is best. It's very slow. It can take hours, or an hour, maybe for some people. It can take hours. So it's for people with patience and that really want to do this. So fisting is like one finger, two finger, then three fingers. And then you put the fingers together, and you must have contact, eye contact all the time, and focus, and breathe, and eye contact. And then you put in 4 fingers, and finally it's over the, is it knuckles? What's this? Yeah, the knuckles. Then it's fisting. And that's very slow and very gentle. and you don't move your hand in hardly any way because it's very, very, very intense. So you do it really slowly, and it's the stretching that is nice. It's not moving that is nice. And sometimes you can move fingers a little bit and so on. And then, of course, when you take out the hand, it has to be very, very slowly because it's very sensitive. And this doesn't mean that the vagina stretches like forever and ever, like you have then a big vagina. That could be nice, but it's not. It's like the vagina always go back, always go back. I mean, this is just the muscles. This is nothing for the muscles. I mean, the muscle can squeeze out a baby. This is not a baby. At the right time, of course, with all the hormones and things like that. But the vagina will go back and be as narrow as it was before. It's not like it has been damaged in any way or so, if you do it slowly in a nice way. So, that was the fingers. Most of these things can be done with the dildo as well, pressing, squeezing, in and out. But with more power usually, and the dildo is bigger than a finger. With a penis, of course, but the penis you can't really, depends on what position, but the penis can't always massage and press as much because it will be hurtful for the person with the penis. But the penis can, of course, go in and out a lot, or a little bit just at the opening. Can massage a bit, can pressure a bit, and it also depends about the positions. I'll talk about the positions. So everything can almost be done, but fingers and dildos can more of press like this and massage like this. Yeah. And the dildo can of course be put on with a harness to be a strap-on dildo, so you can have it in your hand, and you can have it here or on a thigh, for example. So that's flexible in that way as well. Then I have this Vagina Plus chapter in the book, the Vagina Plus. The Vagina Plus is stimulating the vagina plus something else at the same time. Many enjoy stimulation in the vagina just if they have another stimulation at the same time. Clitoris stimulation, for example. Then it is really, really nice. Without the clitoral stimulation, boring. So, but with that, it can be really nice. So for many people, it has to be something else going on during the vaginal stimulation. It can also be, of course, anal sex in different ways, especially with fingers or vibrators or things like that, together with the vagina. And the anal and the vagina is almost, it's not the same part, but the wall between the anal and the vagina, the anus and the vagina, is so thin. So what's going on in the vagina is connected to the anal, to the anus, and opposite. So a finger anally will make the vagina feel different, and will make the vagina tighter, for example, and more sensitive. So the combination of stimulation is what people like. And then there are other combinations like fantasies, for example. I mean, the brain is so important for sex. Where are we now? The dildo ladies. Yes, for example. So, for you who don't see, here's the vulva, and here's a person with a penis that's coming in from, they're lying down, so it's a little bit from the side, and then it's very easy to stimulate the tip of the clitoris at the same time. For example, that can be a position that people really like because you get both and both very easily, and you lie down in a comfortable way. And everyone can lie down. It's not like you need to be an athlete to do it. Yeah, you wake up in the morning, you're tired, it's like, okay. Yeah, it's that kind of a position. Or my back hurts a bit, okay, let's do it like this. Positions, sexual positions. Is it at all important? For some people I would say no. Some people try to find the ultimate sex position and they forget what to do with their fingers and hands and mouth, you know, with the mouth and so on. Some tend to focus on the position, and I get a lot of questions about what's the ultimate sex position, and my girlfriend can't reach orgasm, what kind of position should we use? Some people tend to believe that the key of good sex is in the position. For some people it is, and for many it's not. That's important to remember. But the sexual position, like this one or other ones, I'll show you a few more, can be important. Can be important in many ways. Because how the fingers or the penis or the dildos entering the vagina can feel, it feels in different ways, depending on from which angle, and front and back and so on. Because it can press in different ways, especially when it comes to strap-on dildos or pins. Yeah, even fingers. Depends on from where, because then you can press and do different things. So positions can be important that way. It can also be important, of course, because we were laughing about it, but some person really has a backache, and someone can't really move in a free way and so on. So the position can be very important to be able to have good sex. But positions are also linked to fantasies. Yeah? So the position can make us feel a bit extra like naughty, or we can feel like we dominate, or we get dominated, or we feel very secure in certain positions. So how we feel about the position can really influence the technique and the sex that we do. I won't have drawings for all of the positions that I write about, but I start with a kind of a sitting position. Sitting position. I call it the gyn position, like the gynecological chair, gynecological chair. You know when you go to the...
Gynecology.
What do you say?
Gynecological. I don't know.
Anyway, sitting position is many times very good for vaginal sex because the partner can really reach. It can be sitting on a table like this, and the partner can sit down there and they can really reach, you know, with penises or fingers or whatever, depending on how tall and so on. It can also be sitting on a bed leaning towards the wall, for example. And then the partner can really see and use the tongue and so on in a sitting, kind of sitting position, yeah. But also sitting in the partner's lap can be nice, because if someone is in my lap, it's easy to, you know, stick in fingers, for example, or dildos or whatever. It can be someone sitting in my lap and I have a penis or a strap-on and so on. So sitting in someone's lap can be very good for vaginal sex. For example, here. And here the stimulation is just at the opening. And I would say that's vaginal sex as well, because the vagina is involved. And then, you know, tickling the clitoris is something with a feather. That's nice. So sitting in someone's lap can be a good position. And you can cuddle and kiss and touch each other, usually. So that can be good. Standing position can be nice as well. You can start by just cuddling and then end up in sex in a corner, maybe here, I don't know, but you know, standing you can always put in fingers and so on. But then if it comes to a strap-on dildo or a penis, then you need to match your lengths a bit. And people, of course, tend to wear heels or something to match each other as well. But one can be standing and the other one can be sitting, like in this situation. Standing, even, you know, really like, you really need to get in here. So just got the foot up on the chair, and he can use his mouth and fingers or dildos or whatever.
I love the drawings.
You like the drawings?
Yes.
I'll tell the illustrator.
Because
She
they're
has
all
put her whole life in these drawings.
Very
Why do you
diverse.
like them?
Because it's very diverse. You know, same-sex couples, people with disabilities,
Yeah.
people that survive cancer.
For me, it's important, you know, that we're all
Because
sexual beings.
Because we don't talk about sex for people with disabilities, and we don't talk about sex for people who survived some illness like cancer or something. So that's why I like them. It's very powerful.
Nice that you see that, because I told the illustrator that it's very important. And we don't have many of these drawings in Sweden either, so it's the first book actually that is so diverse in Sweden as well. Any other questions or comments about the drawings? I'm sorry if you can't see very well at the back, but maybe you're happy about it. I don't know. It can be a bit too much sometimes. But sometimes it's a bit too much, you know. It's like a friend of mine, when she saw the drawings, and she's like really radical, and she's like a lesbian activist, and she's like, are you going to show these? Yeah, they're nice. She's like, oh, you're cool. It's not that bad, is it? Because I work with it all the time, and I've seen them so many times. I understand if someone is like, oh my God, I really understand it. And standing position as well. They didn't match that well, so I think she's well. She just might like high heels, you know. But so you can lean on to a table, for example, also. Standing positions are good in that way. If you don't have to lean with your hands, but usually you have one hand that you can use for other stimulation, and the partner can usually use hands as well in standing positions like that. So that's quite good if you match when it comes to length. So what do we have next? No, where is my... The nicest one is gone. I really have to show that one because I like that one. So we have, I know you didn't want to break, but we have 1 minute break because one slide is gone.
Okay.
Okay? So you can stand up for like a minute. Please don't go away. But you can stand up and I'll just find the slide, okay? So I really like that slide. And then it's just a few things there.
И една майка.
Не знам каква. Извини.
Okay, welcome back. It was a short break, but the seminar is going to its end, so it will be a longer break. Yes. So, are you ready to continue? Yes. Good. So I would like to talk about 2 more positions. The other position that's usually called like the doggy style. I don't know what I like about that name, the doggy style, but it's when someone enters the vagina from behind. And the doggy style is a bit sensitive to some people because it can be like you can't see each other, you can't have eye contact. But for others, it's really what you like. You don't want to have eye contact. You want to go into yourself or pretend that you see something over there or whatever. So for some people, the doggy style is really, really good. And the partner's like, hi. It's like, yeah. And for others, they really don't like it because they want to have eye contact. It depends on what kind of sex you have. Some of you really need to have eye contact to make it good. Other people find it a bit sensitive because it can be connected to domination and subordination. Some people like that. They really want to feel dominated because they have chosen to be dominated. And it's mutual, you know? Some people don't like it because they don't want to have that kind of feeling. Other people really like the doggy style because they feel they're in control. They stand on their fore, they are strong, you know, it's like, give it to me now. So it's kind of a control position. So it's really, that's what I meant with the brain. I mean, positions and brain. I mean, the brain is very important to whether you like a position or not. What's good with this position is that you can stand on your fore or lie down, and then you'll have a hand, at least one hand, to use for stimulating the clitoris, and the partner can also stimulate the clitoris, the anal opening, or whatever at the same time. So the hands are free in that way. What's important when it comes to the doggy style position is that the dildo or the penis usually gets quite, I mean, it's a deep position. So if you have a sensitive cervix, it's not a very nice position because depending on, of course, how long the penis or the dildo is, if it touches the cervix or not. But some people have very sensitive cervixes, and when someone's hitting the cervix, it's like, okay, now the sex is over. Like that. If that happens and you want to continue, then you can always, the partner can always hold on at the base of the penis or the dildo, so it won't go as deep. Other people like the massage of the cervix, especially when they're very aroused. So that's also different from person to person. And the missionary position, it's a strange name, isn't it? The missionary position. There is a story about it. It was a social anthropologist who went to the Tropians like 200 years ago and found out that they were having sex over there in a sitting position where both were sitting like this next to each other, and he, this dirty missionary, was having sex with people over there. Yeah, Malinowski. Yes, Malinowski. And he had it in the missionary way. He was a missionary, and then he had sex like that, you know. Someone's lying on her back, and it was on top. So it was called the missionary position. It was a strange position of the Tropians. Like, why is he doing like that? That's what they say. That's the story. Anyway, it's a missionary position. And that can, some people really like it. You can kiss and you're close. And some people really also like to have the weight on top of you and to lie down comfortably. Like, oh, I can just lie here like a pillow queen and someone can just serve me, you know. Other ones don't like it because it's too close, it's too heavy, it's like, I can't move, you know, that kind of feeling. So it's very different. And it's like, I need my hand over here, please back off. And for others, it's really nice. But then you have these different options also. I mean, the partner can be standing on his, her knees, for example, and continue and pull up the person who's lying down, and so on. So it can be done in different ways. This is one way. And the eye contact is there, of course, if people like that. And of course, also, if they're more lying on top of each other, more than this, like lying, there can be also some rubbing against the clitoris during this, like the pubic bone of the partner can rub against the clitoris during this position. So it can be this combination of stimulation there. There are more positions, of course. I've chosen a few. There are more. I mean, the end. I mean, it's just the fantasies, the fantasy and what you like that can stop the exploring positions. Of course, there are a few of them that can be good for vaginal sex and other types of sex as well. I would just like to say a few things that I get questions about when it comes to vaginal sex, and that is if it is dangerous to have vaginal sex during pregnancy. I don't know if you've thought about it or if you've heard about it or so, but it's a myth that it's dangerous to have sex during pregnancy and that it will hurt the baby in some way. It's not possible to be in contact with the baby during sex during a pregnancy. It's not possible in any way. It's inside the uterus, inside this water, inside, I mean, it's inside so many layers, and the cervix is there, the cervix is closed, and it's even this kind of mucus thing around the cervix. It's not possible. Of course, if the pregnant person will get an orgasm, it will contract a little bit, and the baby will like, what? But the baby will experience contractions anyway. I mean, there will be contractions, because that happens during orgasm, that the uterus contracts like this. But during a pregnancy, it does that anyway. But then, of course, if it's a special kind of pregnancy, it's troublesome pregnancy, and you're not supposed to have contractions, then try not to have much sex or intense sex. Otherwise, if it's a normal pregnancy, there's nothing. And then also some people think that if the sex involves penises and sperm, that it will start, get the delivery started because of the prostate, what's it called, in the sperm, there is thing. Anyway, no. It's not enough. No. So, of course, I mean, the vaginal walls, I mean, they can be a bit, for some they can be a bit sensitive and a bit dry and so on during pregnancy, and then it's not very nice with vaginal sex. But if you like it and you don't have those kind of problems, the sex itself is not a problem for the pregnancy. Just want to say that. And finally, a few things more about orgasm. For most people, to get an orgasm with a vagina and a clitoris, they have to stimulate the clitoris. It's the easiest, fastest way of reaching an orgasm. Okay. Some people can have orgasms just by stimulating the vagina. But then again, it depends on which kind of technique. Is it the opening? Is it the massaging? Is it like stretching? And so on. Some, even if you just have something in and out, it's not very common, but that can happen also. But I just want to say that for most people, they have to stimulate the vagina at the same time, or the clitoris, for orgasms. And then, of course, we have different, I mean, deeper orgasms. It has to do with how you breathe, for example, during sex. Deep breathing can give another feeling during the orgasms. Very deep and slow breathing instead of a faster breathing, and so on. So there are many techniques of getting different kinds of orgasms. If you feel them in your whole body, or just at the genital area, and so on. I don't think I have anything more to say right now. So thank you so much for your patience and attention for 2 hours. I'll be here if you have any questions or would like to say anything. Thank you so much for listening.
Or maybe questions, if there are some questions.
Comments.
There's still some time for questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just hope people are trying to do that. Please feel free.
Yes.
Questions. Yes. Would you like? Do you have
I have the microphone.
the microphone over there? You kept it.
But it's not working. Is it working? Prvo,
Okay. Just yeah.
I can take that one. No, actually, I would like if you can put the picture of the vulva because since we're here at the moment, it's something to add, if you don't mind. So while we were talking about, sorry, okay.
What would you like to add?
That we were talking about massages and orgasms. I just wanted to add that the massage outside of the vagina, actually the massage of the vulva, the pubic bone and outside, it can also help in getting better orgasms, full body orgasms. And
Oh, we know that.
some people don't.
Thank you. And what's important with that, it doesn't have to be exactly what I think you're trying to say on the tip of the clitoris, because a thorough massage here can really make things happen. But it's also because of the clitoris is going underneath here, for example. Pressing the labias while doing other things can also really make the whole clitoris more sensitive and so on. So many things can be done here. I just didn't focus on it now because it was more about the vagina, but there are many nice things to be done here. And at the same time as you're stimulating the vagina as well. Yeah. So, anything else? Yes, please?
I have two questions. The first one, there is a special condom for vaginas, right?
Can you stand up? Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
And be louder.
Sorry,
I
yes.
just want to ask I have two questions.
Yes, please.
The first one is, there exists one special condom for only with vaginas, right?
A special
Yeah.
condoms, yes, condoms, yes, a special. Yeah, yeah. They're kind of vaginal condoms. It's like they usually have like a round thing like this, and then there's the condom, and you insert it, and you can. What's nice with it that you can insert it, and then it can be there, ready for sex. So it doesn't have to be inserted during sex. So it's a ring like this. It's like kind of the condom, and then there's another ring. So the outer ring is lying around like this here. So the condom is inside, and then there's a ring here with the condom here. So it really is open like that, ready for vaginal sex. Yeah. And some people really like it, especially, I don't know if you use it here a lot. People in Sweden don't use it a lot. Some countries in Africa, they use it a lot. So it's really different between countries. And it's really something that if you just give it a bit of a practice, it's like the first time it's a bit strange, second and third time then people tend to really like it if they practice putting it inside. You need this technique, you're ready to put up your foot on something, you get it inside, and then you practice a few things, and then it's usually quite, people tend to like it. Yeah. Oh, and then what's another question?
Фиданска.
Would you want to do
Елена?
it not in English?
Немам више.
No?
In German, it's like, for example, female orgasm. Does it mean that you get like a lot of, let's say, water? Because, for example, I have friends that told me that they never had this like feeling I saw, for example, in porns or stuff like this, that there come like a lot of water and they have this orgasm.
Yeah, it's the ejaculation that I was talking about. Did you hear the question about water coming and you can see